John Waid is the founder and CEO of C3 Corporate Culture Consulting, a firm specializing in aligning an organization's culture with its strategic goals. John has worked in sales and marketing at Pfizer, PepsiCo, Nestle, and Chateau Ste. Michelle Winery. During these experiences, he developed a heightened awareness of the indispensable role people's attitudes play in implementing effective processes and procedures. This interest led him to study behavior in corporate settings and working as a behavior consultant. Because behaviors don't exist in a vacuum, John examined and analyzed the effects of corporate culture on behavior and found his real purpose in life as a pioneering expert on that subject. He understands the direct link between a company's culture and its performance. As a globally recognized expert on corporate culture, he leads companies to clearly define their values and then build positive and purposeful behaviors focused on results. He is a passionate advocate for developing business leaders who can attract superior talent and then retain that talent. John's background in marketing and sales is evident in his focus on using culture to grow businesses and their profits. He does this by teaching managers how to value their talent in ways that get desired results. John is an author, speaker, facilitator, and thought leader in the area of corporate culture and its positive impact on people and companies. He was born in Mexico City, has lived in 5 countries, and speaks fluent Spanish, Portuguese, and English. He is an author, keynote speaker, and blogger. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. So, John, to kick things off, tell us about your career and how you got into it in the first place.
Okay, so I started by I was born in Mexico City and speak Spanish, and both my parents are from the States, and my dad was working down there and decided it was so nice that he stayed for 22 years. I started working at Frito-Lay as a 18-year-old doing routes in the summer and delivering chips, and I got a BA from Furman University, and then went on to work selling chiclets as my first job outside of Washington D.C. And then I went to graduate school at the University of South Carolina. Graduated with an MBA in international business and went and worked in Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and Mexico. And then I'm now back in the States. I've lived in Latin America for about 20 years, and I speak now Portuguese also. So, and then I worked in sales and marketing for Fortune 500 companies until I found my passion at 40, which is doing training and development work in the human behavior field with executives and leaders and managers, and also in the sales and service area. And so that's just a brief synopsis of my background.
Well, it sounds like you've had a real global career, and isn't it a gift that you discovered your passion in time, when you were 40, so that you could delve into that for the second half of your career?
Right. I think that was a blessing. I really have enjoyed my career, and I'll do it until I die now because I really love what I do. I just will do it, and I'll do it. I'll do it, and I won't do it as much as I do it now. I'll obviously power down. The thing is that I'll continue to do what I do now because I love it, and it really is. It's a hobby that's also my career.
Well, it's funny you say that because Charlene Williams works with me at Marshall Communications in my PR agency, and we both are passionate and a little bit obsessive about what we do. And we always say that someday we'll be in a nursing home, be wheeling around in our wheelchairs and saying, "Oh, wouldn't you like to do a press release about that?" And, "Oh, I think you should do a public service announcement." Yeah. So I am right with you there. Like, I just love what I do so much. I can't imagine not doing it in some form.
Right. Yeah, I envision my later days being on a cruise ship instead of a nursing home, and talking to people at the dinner table about how they should work on values and behaviors and culture in their companies, and they should use our training company to help them. So,
well, that sounds like a pretty good place to talk about it. I know that a lot of cruise ships do have professional speakers, so maybe that's something I should look into also.
Right. It's a lot less dreary than the nursing homes I've been to. Although there are some nicer ones. That's the problem is that I'd rather be on a cruise ship. I think and it's cheaper.
Right. Exactly. So, John, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently? I think probably you're going to say you would get into what you're doing now earlier in life.
It's you must be a mind reader. You must have ESPN.
Yeah, I do. And in New England, we have NESN, New England Sports Network.
That's right. The New England Spirits Network. Exactly.
Yeah, right. That too.
Yeah, no, that's it is. I mean, I've got a 17-year-old daughter that probably, if she knows one thing about me, is that I'm real adamant with her to find what she's good at and what she loves to do early in life. She must have taken 14 personality tests already, and she actually came out with 3 careers out of 100 that she liked. One was mayor, one was comedian, and the other one was news anchor.
Wow. So she must be very charismatic and engaging.
That's right. She's funny, and she's got to develop that because, college is a place to develop those things and to kind of come out of your shell. And I'm encouraging her to go in that direction because I said, you can actually probably do all 3 because, as the better comedians are also news anchors and mayors in their own right.
Right.
If you look at what Stephen Colbert does, he's a mayor, he's a news anchor because he pretty much covers the news of the day, and then he does his monologue. So it's an interesting combination of those 3 gifts. So.
Right. Yeah. And as far as your own career, do you wish that you had discovered your corporate culture specialization when you were in your 20s?
I wish. I wish I could have discovered the passion for helping. My daughter said it best. She was 4 years old, and they asked her unprompted. They said, "What does your daddy do?" And she said, "My daddy helps people be better."
Nice. Wow, that's sweet.
So yes, I wish I had discovered my gift for helping people be better earlier in my career.
Well, can you give me an example of how PR and social media have helped to advance you, your career, or a client that you have worked with?
Well, it's all about PR because public relations is if you take it to its finer art form, it's the ability to influence others. And the ability to influence others to make a decision is really what PR is all about. So I feel like I've been doing that for that's one of my gifts. I took the Strength Finders test, the Strength Finders 2.0, number one strength was the ability to woo, and that's the ability to, get lots of dates.
Yeah. That's
No,
funny.
my ability to quickly connect with people and to be real and to connect with them is really a gift that I have and I love, and I feel like it's at the heart of PR. What about you? Since PR is your bailiwick, what's the definition of PR for you? What makes PR special? And
Well, I define public relations as an organization or a person communicating targeted messages with targeted audiences in a whole variety of ways. I mean, in the early days of my career, we were focusing mostly on newspaper and traditional broadcast and magazine publicity. We were always going through journalists, but then as social media has evolved, we now have access directly to our publics, so to speak. So social media has opened up all kinds of new avenues of communicating. And what I love to do actually is to generate traditional publicity. So getting a feature story in a magazine or a newspaper about a client and then sharing that through social media with a targeted group or, people who have already liked a client or an organization. But I guess one thing that has kept me so engaged through so many years is that it's changing every single day. And I was lucky enough to have a boss back when I was in my late 20s who said, he said, boy, technology is changing everything we're doing in PR. And he said, the key is just to stay on top of it and push the envelope. So I've always had that voice in my mind saying, stay on top of this technology wave. And it has totally changed public relations. But that's what I'm so fascinated by is how to combine sort of the traditional methods with all these new methods.
Right. And it's changing, evolving, and getting and really kind of baffles people, I guess, especially, people that are in business, I imagine, are asking you, hey, where should I focus my energy and what is going to give me a return on investment?
Right. So many people feel overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, how do I do my regular job plus stay involved with Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and Instagram? And I guess one recommendation I always have is LinkedIn is like a very safe place to post information, and it doesn't involve, you don't have to check it throughout the day. You can post once a week or so on LinkedIn. And, so if you feel overwhelmed by social media, I always say LinkedIn is a good place to start. But of course, if you're...
I use LinkedIn a lot.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Well, at the end of the show, we'll give people, make sure people know that they can link with you to follow up.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. LinkedIn is there anything that competes with LinkedIn or?
Well, there's nothing as big as LinkedIn. I mean, the great thing about LinkedIn in my mind is that it's a great big site. So Google acknowledges its authority. It has tremendous authority. So if you post information and when you do your profile, you should focus on the summary section. And that's where you should be sure to have all the keywords that people would be using to search for you. In the summary section of LinkedIn. And I always recommend that's where people should post their brand manifesto or their personal brand story. Like, whatever you do, whether you're a plumber or an electrician or a gas station owner, whatever it is, you should infuse your story to make you different from all the other plumbers or electricians or gas station owners. So, how your childhood influenced you, or how some experience you have had in life, how that influenced the course of your career. That's your brand
Right.
story.
Right, right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what one question I have as I delve into PR and social media is how much is exposure, and you kind of answered this question, how much is exposure versus how do you turn that exposure into business?
I'm just laughing, John, because I think you're interviewing me, but that's fine. Well, again, the way you do that, I kind of touched on it already. So if you can generate articles or even, this podcast,
Right.
you generate media exposure, but then you have your own following, either on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. You nurture those people who are following you on an ongoing basis. And then when you get a media article or interview, you share it with the people who are following you. You provide that content so they can get to know you better. And then you drive them to your website, and on your website, you be sure to capture people's email addresses. And that's where you nurture people along by sending a monthly electronic newsletter where you share information that's helpful to them. And I'm thinking now of our mutual friend, Stephen Wessner, who has a wonderful podcast called Onward Nation. And Stephen's sister-in-law is the one who introduced you to me, Wendy Thiel. Yeah, so if people want to listen to Onward Nation, Stephen really breaks down exactly how to do that, what I call a marketing funnel. So capturing, So the idea is to generate widespread publicity, then share it with your audience, then get your audience to go to your website, and then be sure to capture their email with the promise that you're going to provide them with helpful information going forward.
Right. No, I'm glad you're talking about this, because I've invested a lot of money in websites and PR. I had a PR firm that got me great exposure in trade magazines. The only thing I wish they had done or helped me with more is how do you get that exposure in trade magazines to actually generate business. So,
well, that's where you've got to convert. You've got to convert them to sales. So that actually kind of breaks down the difference between marketing and sales. So marketing is the awareness building, and then the sales is where you convert people into clients or customers.
Right. So is PR changing in the sense that some PR firms are also helping you with the sales part of it? Because I find that I get plenty of exposure. The thing is turning that exposure into sales without me actively having to do it.
Right. Yes, actually.
Or getting the help of somebody to do it.
Some PR firms will help you set up these sales funnels, which, start with a broad funnel of people who are what we would call warm prospects, and then turning them into hot prospects. And then you or, a member of your team might have to close the deal. But, the idea is to nurture those people along so they go from being people who weren't aware of you at all, and then kind of keep them interested. And the whole direction of marketing now is going towards what we call content marketing. And that's creating content like this podcast is content, or, I have a column on Forbes.com where I write on a monthly basis about sales and marketing and PR.
Right. And why is it going in that direction? Is that because there's research to suggest that that's where the business is coming from, or is
Well, part of it is just the evolution of the internet and how much time people are spending on, their phones and their screens. And, there's great competition for eyeballs on all those screens. So you want to cut through the clutter and have content that Google, again, it's all about getting Google to serve up your content to your targeted audience. But, really the whole evolution of content marketing started with when the soap operas started on television. I mean, companies like Procter & Gamble created soap operas so that they could generate an audience of housewives and people who were like home during the day, so they could watch their stories. And then Tide came in and said, buy Tide to, that's the whole idea behind soap operas. And so I think all of us with our companies now need to think of how do we nurture our audience with engaging stories. And those stories aren't always about us. The stories should be about how we've helped our clients and customers.
Right. That's really helpful. And I thought you're right. I thought you were going to interview me, and I'm getting more out of this podcast interviewing you.
Well, I appreciate it, John. Do you want to tell me about some of the obstacles to success in your career and how you've overcome them?
Yeah, the main obstacles to success, and everybody's got a different definition of success. For me, success is, are you happy, and have you used your time that you're alive in a good way to make society better, to make yourself better, and if you've done that, for me, that's success. So the obstacles to that are, number one, finding out what you're good at and doing that so that you can help yourself and others to be better, and you can leave something behind that people are going to remember you by, that's more than just, hey, I worked at such a company and I did this. And I think the fulfilling lives are those. I was reading about Jeff Bezos and how a lot of what he does, he wants to make sure that when he's 80 or 90, that as people read about him, and especially his grandkids, that he's left a good trail of good things behind, and things that have been helpful to society. So I think thinking of, starting with the end in mind, and thinking of how am I going to be remembered, and did I leave a lasting legacy of something? Did I make the world, or at least the world that I touch better? That's for me and the obstacles to that are everything from I think the number one obstacle to that is your own mindset. I think people's mindsets, and that's a lot of what we do in my work life, is how do you change your mindset and your behaviors to get the most out of life, so you're not stuck in a dead-end job that you hate every day and that you're not willing to change? Or how do you change the mindset of a CEO to think, hey, all I care about is profits? And how do you change that mindset to think about, hey, I care about the employees, how they behave, and how they influence, the behavior, how their behavior influences the buying decisions of the customers. So I need to treat my employees like I want them to treat my customers.
Right, totally.
And companies that are doing that are really exceeding the expectations of their customers, and then they're generating a huge amount of profits. So I think if you begin with the idea that your employees and companies are your number one source of future revenues, and if you don't work on their behavior and the way you treat them and how they treat others, then you're not doing your job as a really good leader. And
right.
That's, as we teach leadership, that's what we're teaching. We're saying, okay, the end result is money. Well, let's start with the employees, then go to the customer, and then go to the money, as opposed to starting with the money, going to the customer, and then going to the employee.
Right.
So So it's changing the way that leaders look at how they run companies to saying, we're going to focus on creating aligned behaviors in our employees that delight our customers, that generate a lot of revenue. And companies like Chick-fil-A and Southwest Airlines are doing that. And their competitors are going, why are they so much more successful than I am? And what I would say is, if you don't change your mindsets and behaviors, and you don't focus on the mindsets and behaviors of your employees, you're not going to have that ultimate success. And ultimately, you're leaving a legacy of happy employees, happy customers, and happy shareholders, because you've done it in the right order and you've focused on the right things.
Right. Well,
people first and profits second.
Yeah.
Is the way to get more profits.
And as a customer, you can tell when you walk into any business whether the employees are happy or not. It's for me especially. I mean, I can tell immediately how those people are being treated, because you're absolutely right. It does totally impact how they treat you as a customer.
Right.
Well, John,
right. And yeah,
we're going to just go to a quick break now, and then we'll have more time to chat. And first, I want to give away one of my PR Maven Nation things to do today pads. And so for all of our listeners, if you go to prmaven.com/giveaway, you could be our next winner. And also, I want all of our listeners to join PR Maven Nation on Facebook. John, I'd love to have you join that as well. And we're going to be having a podcast party on September 25th to celebrate the first year of the PR Maven podcast. So that's going to be in Portland, Maine. And John, you're invited to come on up.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll try to be there. I'm definitely, number one, want to congratulate you on a year in your podcast, and number two, I absolutely will be a follower and get other followers for you, because you're really, really good at what you do.
Thank you. You're very sweet. And on that note, we're going to just take a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment. This podcast is all about growing your network in order to strengthen your brand. In my 30-plus year marketing and PR career, I have seen many organizations waste their precious time and money on marketing because they're trying to obtain success without any strategy to achieve their goals. So many organizations and companies suffer from what I call the shiny object syndrome, trying every new fad that comes down the pike. That's why I created the Marshall Plan 15 years ago. We have done over 100 of these plans for clients, helping them to get out of their day-to-day routine to identify their goals, solidify their brand story, focus in on their ideal customer avatar, analyze their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and create a realistic budget and measurement dashboard. We create the Marshall Plan collaboratively with our clients over the course of 3 months. We have a 65-step process to create a highly customized, actionable plan. And it's not like we come in and say, we are the consultants from away and we know everything. Instead, we come in and say, let's sit down at the table with your leadership team, and we'll bring our expertise in what's working in PR and marketing. And our client team brings their knowledge of what's working in their organization. And together, we come up with a really amazing plan. For many, it's been a transformative process. I have watched how teams have come together and their faces light up because they have such a sense of accomplishment and they're so excited about the future of their organization. We help our client figure out the best way to implement the plan, sometimes using people within their organization and sometimes with our help. We would love to chat with you about how you can expand your network and achieve your marketing goals with a Marshall Plan. Go to marshallpr.com/marshallplan to learn more about the process, or better yet, send me an email at nancy@prmaven.com and we'll set up a time to talk and get started. And now back to our conversation. Okay, welcome back. And today we're talking with John Waid, founder and CEO of C3, Corporate Culture Consulting. And I want to dive right back in with some more questions for John. How do you measure success in your PR, social media, and marketing, John?
I was measuring success when I first started, and actually I've been doing this for a while, 15 years, and my success was how much exposure am I getting? And now what I'm realizing is that you got to tie it in with exposure times, am I getting to the right customer, like we talked about in the first half of the show? And are they wanting to purchase what I'm, what my why is, what my goal is which is to help people be better, and especially companies and leaders to be better. So are they willing to like the stories that I send them, like the content that I'm providing for them, and turn that into revenue so that we can continue to provide this wonderful content. So how do we pay for all the PR through the business that we get in our companies?
Right, exactly. Well, again, the whole premise of this podcast is about growing your network of fans and followers and essentially brand ambassadors, because the more brand ambassadors you have out there, the more other people you have out there who are selling your brand and doing what we call word of mouth marketing, which is really the most impactful kind of marketing.
Right. And I was going to ask you, how much is word of mouth versus, because if all this is going to drive them back to the website, most of my business comes, and I imagine a lot of people's business comes from word of mouth, from people that are already doing business with you. So that's where most of my business comes from. I imagine that's for most companies, that's the case. So how much is PR helping you take the people that already know you and encourage them to reach out to you, assuming that you've reached, because I've probably reached, easily 30, 40,000 people in my business. How do I get them to remember me, and how do I get them to want to come back and buy or buy for the first time?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought up the remember me part, because sometimes you might meet a CEO who wants your services, but it's not just the right time now. And you want to be sure to establish an ongoing rapport or ongoing conversation with that person, so when they are ready to buy, they remember to call you and not some other consultant who they met more recently. And
right.
PR actually is really great. It works in tandem with word of mouth marketing, because say I'm enthusiastic about your brand, and then an article comes out in the Wall Street Journal about you and how great you are. I could take that article and it actually backs up when I'm telling my other CEO friends, like I belong to the Women's Presidents Organization, and we get together every month and we share information and we talk about businesses that we've worked with. And if I could go into my Women's Presidents Organization meeting and say, OMG, this John Waid, who I just worked with, he was just written about in the Wall Street Journal. So again, that kind of makes me look smart too. Like even, so they're working in parallel. That Bonnie Raitt song, "Let's Give Them Something to Talk About." I wish I could sing it.
Right.
You constantly want to be giving your brand ambassadors, your most faithful followers, you want to give them almost a script so that when they are referring you to somebody else, they have something to talk about. And that's the whole reason why you want to have a brand story.
Right. Well, I love that you brought up, let's give them something to talk about, because that'll be the thing that I take away from this podcast is is that it is really about giving them something to talk about, and that's what PR is intended to do. So thank you for that. Because
yeah, and if you remember the next line of that, it's like, how about love? Let's talk about love. And love is like the foundation of a brand. Like when you say, oh, I love my Harley Davidson, or I love my BMW. I mean, when people love a brand, that's, that's the goal of any marketing department, is to get people to fall in love with their brand.
Right. And the thing about it is that that you're right. At the end of the ultimate goal is for them to love your brand, and to love, if you are your brand, to love you. Right?
Yeah, right, exactly. And then tell others about it. Exactly.
Right. So love is the goal, and let's give them something to talk about so that they love us.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So, John, most successful people have a network of fans and followers and people who love them, either online or in person or both. How have you built your network of fans and followers, and has it been a conscious goal, or has it happened on its own?
It's been a conscious goal, in the sense that what we do for a living is we don't just go in and deliver a training. Since the basis of our training is changing mindsets and behaviors, which in adults is not easy and takes time. Our ultimate goal is to be at your company for years and years, helping you to create a culture where you have aligned behaviors and people doing what you want them to be doing with your customers, and then ultimately your customers love you and buy. So it's the thing that we give them to talk about is, hey, that training helped me to change my mindsets and my behaviors, so that now I'm more successful at getting the customers to love me and to love our products and to love our company. So we work with the employees and companies to change the mindsets, change the behaviors, so that they delight all the other employees and the customers, so that you can get to that. So that's how I've built most of the companies I do work for. They hire us year after year after year after year, because they say, we love corporate culture consulting. We love what they've done for us, and we want to bring them back. And I had the nicest compliment yesterday from a customer. He said, John, I don't know if you know, but my employees really like you.
Ah, that's nice.
And one of the things that they say to me is, one of the best things that we've done in the last couple of years is to hire your company and to have you guys come in. That's one of their favorite things that they did, is they got to work on the culture of the company. They got to learn about how to work on their own behaviors and their own mindsets, so that they can produce better products, better services, and really, be happy at work. And again, it's about the employees first, and then the customers, and then the money. And if we can change that mindset in business owners, what'll be wonderful for the business owners is that the employees will love the company, the customers will love the company, and you'll love the profits you get at the end.
Right.
So that's our goal is, and we believe you can do that. It really requires changing your mindset and behaviors, and that's not easy, and that's what we do for a living.
And how do you define corporate culture, John?
So corporate culture is really the values and the behaviors at your company. So let's dumb it down. It's 3 values and the adjoining behaviors that go with it. Let's take an example, Southwest Airlines. They have 3 values. One of them is fun loving, and loving is spelled with a U, because that's how they spell love. And you saw that because one of the flight attendants got into the luggage compartment. Did you see that?
Yeah. I'm snorting a little. It's funny. I don't know if I could fit in there. I have to go on a diet.
Me neither. Yeah. So and some of them rap when you get on there, and they make you feel really, really great. And one of the best experiences I ever had on Southwest Airlines was I got to the gate late, and it was my fault. It was 5 minutes before they were supposed to close the boarding door. And at most every other airline, they would have said, sorry, sir, you're going to have to, get on the next flight. Not only did they not do that, the lady said, are you John? Are you Mr. Waid? And I said, yes, my name's John. I'm Mr. Waid. He goes, welcome to Southwest Airlines. We've been holding the plane for you. Welcome. And it made me feel so good to have bought the ticket to fly on Southwest because they cared about me.
Right.
And so,
and you were expecting them to yell at you and say, bad John. You shouldn't have stayed in the bar so long.
Exactly. Yeah, now, I think you know me too well. So yeah, I mean, it's those types of experiences are what gets you to love a company, is when they do things like that. And I wish more companies did that, and I wish people would spend more money on training their people to do that and making sure that they do have their fun loving. Another one that they really promote is warrior spirit, which is kind of that's their operational value, that's how they run a low cost airline really, really well, is they have a warrior spirit, and they're constantly, making sure that they're cutting costs, they're providing, they're being quick in the way they turn around planes and all that kind of stuff, and the way they think about their operation. And then, a servant heart is the other one. And that's really their leadership value. And they really do live the servant heart. We're here to serve, and we're here to treat customers like they want to be treated, not how we want to treat them, like they want to be treated.
Right.
And
I like that.
I wanted to make that plane that day, and I appreciate them helping me to deliver what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and I bet you have told a lot of people that story too, right?
I have. I love telling people about that, because that's what's going to bring you back, and that's what the key to my business is. Will you come back and to corporate culture consulting, and will you hire us for a lifetime? And USAA does a good job of that. I mean, they advertise, we'll be lifetime USAA members, and I'm a USAA customer, and I agree. They treat you so well, you want to stay for a lifetime, not just a policy. So it really pays to pay attention to that human part, and not enough of the companies out there, that even the ones I work with, are paying enough attention to that. And it really matters. Your customer experience is based on that. So,
right. I think a lot of companies spend way more money on their machinery and their equipment and their facilities and, operations, rather than, investing in the people who are really the face of the company.
Right. I mean, all things being equal, one company that sells chicken or another fast food chain that sells chicken, it's the same chicken. It's delivered quickly. It's delivered efficiently. It tastes good. The one that smiles, the one that makes you feel good, and the one that has clean bathrooms, that's the one you're going to go back to. I'm sorry. The other one, because people say, well, do values really matter? I said, well, if I were to go into some fast food chains, I'd put your values are nasty, disgusting, and unfriendly.
Yeah, right.
If that's what your values are at your corporate headquarters, then you're living them at your store level. And, if that's what the customer's feeling, that's how the customer's going to vote or not vote for you with their money. So I tell companies, you can put out the best product on the planet. You can have the best process. If your people are disgruntled and you don't treat me well, I'm not coming back. And I'm a very picky consumer of things, and I will call the CEO of a company if I'm not happy, and let them know why I'm not happy. And most of the time they say, well, that wasn't our intention. I said, well, if it wasn't your intention, then why did it happen? Right.
And then do you try to sell that CEO on your services?
I I tell them what I do, and if they're smart, they hire us, and if they're not, then they continue to go on. So,
right.
I mean, somebody told me, and I thought it was a great saying. They said, the truth will set you free,
Right.
but first it'll piss you off.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So I tell the truth to people, and sometimes they get mad at me, and I say, don't get mad, get even, and get happy. Let's fix this, because it's a fixable situation, and that way we're all going to do well. So it's not worth getting mad when people tell you the truth, because most of the time, if you're a good person, you're saying it because you want to help people, not hurt them.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, John, in your line of work, what is a resource such as a book, a website, or an app that you have found helpful, and why?
Okay. I like KISS tools, keep it short and simple tools. And I really like stories. And I wrote a book called Reinventing Ralph. And it's a little book for salespeople about culture-driven selling. And it's written about Ralph, who's a salesman, and he goes through some rough times until he gets a mentor who helps him figure out how to have some good values and some good behaviors and develop a sales culture versus a sales process. And Ralph, at the end of the book, I won't give it away. You ought to read about Ralph. And I love fables, and Reinventing Ralph is I wrote a fable because I believe stories touch the heart and the mind. And I like a book called The Goal, which is about operations and it's told in a way that's in a story format. I like the book Good to Great because they tell a lot of stories in there and get their point across. And then there's one called The 1 Minute Manager, which is a great older book that tells a lot of stories about how you should manage. And so those are all things that I believe. I believe you keep the knowledge simple so that you can execute the content. And the way you get people to execute the content is you touch the heart, and then you touch the mind.
I agree. And I think that's the essence of a strong brand also, is touching the heart and the mind as well.
Right.
Yeah. And that brand grows the brand community or the tribe or cult of raving fans.
Right.
So what would be your one piece of advice for someone just starting out in their career?
Find out what your passion is. Take all the assessments. Don't be stupid like I was and see a career on there that you don't like or that you don't know and decide that that's not an accurate personality test because of one career that it had listed on it, because that's what I did. Figure out what you like and follow that passion and work at it really, really hard, because not only in your professional life, also in your personal life, you should love what you do, and you should love who you're with. And if you do that, you will be more happy than most.
That's true. Yeah. It always makes me sad to hear people who hate their jobs and just can't wait to retire. But then There'll be you and me. We'll be out on that cruise ship when we're 90 years old.
Yeah, we'll be dancing in the Lido Lounge.
You're right, exactly.
Or on the Lido deck in the Lido Lounge, I guess.
I look forward to that. So,
yeah,
John,
me too.
My final question is, if PR Maven Nation wants to connect with you, what are some of the best ways our listeners can get in touch with you?
Well, they can call me, and I won't answer the phone because telemarketers call me all the time. No, they can contact me. They can contact me at jwaid@corporatecultureconsulting.com. So it's jwaid@corporatecultureconsulting.com. And if you contact me, I'll call you right back. If I'm in Argentina, I'll call you right back. If I'm in London, I'll call you right back. I'll call you.
Great.
And would love to hear from you, and would love to be helpful. And we don't, we like to help our customers, and we like to make sure that you're happy, because we want you to be a customer for life.
Well, I love your philosophy of business. And I also think the fact that you sort of turned this podcast around and interviewed me to some extent shows that you're a curious person and a lifelong learner, which I think is always is great, because I myself consider myself to be a lifelong learner as well.
Right. And at the end of the day, we don't teach, we facilitate our training workshops. So we ask I ask 500 or 600 questions a day in the workshops. So it's all about it's all about the interaction. It's not about, a one-way conversation. So I love this podcast. I loved you because I learned a ton, and we interacted with each other really nicely. So thank you.
Thank you, John. I loved it too. And I think we're going to become brand ambassadors for each other.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks to everyone in PR Maven Nation for joining us today. And thanks especially to John Waid for joining me from Atlanta, Georgia. And I look forward to chatting with you again, John.
I do too. Thank you.
That's it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank you for listening. And if you feel that you've gotten value out of today's conversation, consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever app you're using to tune in. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so. I release a new episode each week, and subscribing will make sure you get an alert when there's a new episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation by going to prmaven.com/nation and clicking join. It's free, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you have an Alexa-enabled device, be sure to add the PR Maven Marketing Minute to your daily flash briefing menu. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.